Happy Monday, happy episode 50. We have done 50 videos together. Kudos to you if you've watched more than several. The whole purpose of this has been for me to bring to you information that I'm learning, plans that I think are an important priority for us moving forward, the next chapter for the Municipal District of St. Stephen, so that I can be part of leading a council that you trust, because a lot of times it feels like you're not sure about council, you can't trust the decisions, you don't know what's being made. And I want us to be building a home that we are proud of. Sometimes I feel like we're a little bit shy about, well, I live in St. Stephen and it's got some good things, it got some bad things. Let's change that. And ultimately, I want to be sharing an action plan that we understand as we build things. You can understand where we are, where we're going, where we're moving through the process. That is relevant to what I want to talk about today. This is the plan, and I'll just talk about it. As promised, we're kind of talking about homelessness in St. Stephen and how to tackle that problem. Now, I spent the last couple days talking about that. Yesterday, I was explaining how housing is actually a human right. It is incumbent on governments to get on board and help people who are experiencing homelessness because of the trauma that it can be for the entire community when there are people who are experiencing homelessness among us. It is a problem that needs to be solved by all levels of government. We do see the province stepping up right now in unprecedented ways here in New Brunswick, taking advantage of a federal program that is spending money to solve this problem. And if our municipality continues to take inaction and to drag its feet the way it has been, the way the leadership has been, then we are going to miss out, and this problem is going to continue to be exacerbated where we live, and it's not ideal for anyone. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is the continuum of moving people from completely unsheltered, living in encampments outside, to getting into a place that they can call their own. Now, we don't have to ever reinvent the wheel on this. That's the good news. And that's what to me is confusing, having followed this council for a couple of years, having run for MLA on homelessness, and talking about the acute problem that it is. We have not seen action on this. In fact, I was watching the 2022 Meet the Candidates event on YouTube for the mayoral run in St. Stephen here, and that was being brought up then. One of the questions was, how are you going to tackle homelessness, right? Now, we do have the shelter in place. The shelter is very much an emergency stopgap. We are not treating it like an emergency, and it is creating problems for many people who live around, people who are there, but it is so essential, and the people who need the shelter and find a bed every night are so grateful. Are there some problematic individuals around the shelter who don't adhere to the rules and regulations of it? Absolutely. And that is why we always need to be thinking about the next step, which is to alleviate the shelter. Now, how do you alleviate the shelter? How did another municipality do it in record time and help everybody involved? Well, this is where I want to talk to you about Peterborough, Ontario. When you start to just explore other municipalities, remember, this is a North America-wide problem, so we can look wherever we want for how different municipalities are handling this and solving this problem. I would say the Municipal District of St. Stephen, unfortunately, is not leading in this, not stepping up. That would change with me as your mayor, because what I would start to do as an advocate of solving this problem for all of us is make sure that there are next steps for folks who are experiencing homelessness. If the shelter is the only solution for the problem, then all the pressures on the shelter and the people who work there and the people who stay there and the neighbors around there, right? So the next step is then to provide bridge housing, which I talked about 2 days ago, presented the CAEH plan for that, and this is why Peterborough is such an amazing example of what can be done, the courage that is required, and we can't sugarcoat this, the next step problems that do result when you solve the problem of taking the pressure off of a shelter. So we got to be clear about that as well, that this is a very long view, and I think Peterborough understood that because of the urgency with which they addressed this problem. So for a timeline, just to fill you in, Peterborough, way back in 2023, saw this problem of encampments and people being homeless in their city. It's a much larger population than St. Stephen, of course, and they have homeless people in numbering around 200. And so they saw these encampments starting, and they said, we need to get to work on a housing continuum as quickly as we can. I want you to go back to when we started seeing encampments and public drug use and that kind of thing here in St. Stephen. It has been, at least again, when I was running for MLA 2024, 2023, around the same time that Peterborough was seeing this issue. And all we have in the Municipal District of St. Stephen right now is a shelter. Peterborough, early in 2023, said, we've got to move people out of encampments and just emergency shelters, because they did have that, and provide the next step. And so what they did was they passed something, I've just got it here because I want to get it right, they passed something called the Interim Housing Solution Strategy, which would allow them to aggressively make sure that everyone was housed who needed it. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. No, that's not right. Because bridge housing is not for everyone, right? And they had so many people that what they did was they earmarked a project of 50 units, 50 bridge housing units. They zoned it. It was in a residential area. They asked for public consultation. They've been working with neighbors, etc. Is everyone happy with this? Does everyone love bridge housing close to a residential area? No. But enough people were on board saying, look, we've got 200 people living in encampments all over the city. This cannot continue. Let's try to triage this and get people a place to call their own and join the program as a participant, right? If you're watching this today and you have kind of objections around bridge housing and lots of questions, I did cover those and provide the link to the CAEH bridge housing kind of plan and handbook. You're a participant when you join bridge housing. There are standards of conduct and behavior you need to follow. There's caseworkers, there is signing in, there's signing out, there's controls around visitors, etc. So this is the kind of model that Peterborough is using. They passed this bylaw to get this going in early 2023. It was being built, the units were being purchased and installed, $26,000 per unit. They were built and installed in the summer of the same year. We're talking a few months here. And then by November, people were moving in. Now, here is what it looks like. It is called now The Crossing. They are celebrating 2 years. 50 units like this, where again, think about someone who is living in the shelter right now. Lights on at night, lots of noise, lots of coming and going. If you're trying to get clean, there's an attic next to you. There's people pushing. Again, lots of chaos. Imagine then being given a place like this, a place to sleep, a place with, your own, the details around the units. There's a bed, there's heat and air conditioner, there's a mini fridge, and there's a place for you to put your things. There's 24/7 staffing. There is a service hub where you get those essential services, whether it's social services, medical services, and then there's communal washrooms. There's a community space, community culinary space, kitchens. There is security always, again, sign in, sign out, caseworkers, that kind of thing. And it is operated by the province of Ontario. Got this off the ground with over $2 million of funding. It costs $1.9 million per year to operate, and the Elizabeth Fry Society is the agency. Provinces often choose a nonprofit to operate the same way that Neighborhood Works operates the lodge and is stretched to the max, of course. The lodge is at capacity all the time. This in Peterborough is at capacity every single night. Someone's always in a unit. And again, there's lots of rules to follow and ways to continue to be a participant. But this is the kind of thing that was operational in just a matter of months because someone with a strong voice on council, the leadership, they got the consensus they needed to solve this problem. Now, again, what has happened in the 2 years? Well, all that has happened really in terms of the issue is there's a lot of success stories around people moving out. And I just wanted to see, yes, okay, so 50 people are housed every night. 12 people have transitioned into permanent housing, which frees up space for more people to come in. 15 people who are participants in the program are actually engaged in work programs, which means they're getting clean, they're working through addictions. 2 people gained permanent employment. Again, some of the people who are experiencing homelessness actually have a job. And so this is one of those things where when you put someone in a unit like this and they have their own place to go to every night and they have an address, even though it's considered temporary, absolutely, it's just one step in moving people forward into living independently. This is the kind of foothold they need. My concern here is, again, with the Municipal District of St. Stephen, is this sense of like, well, we don't have transition housing after that step, so we're not going to do this step. If we had approached the shelter situation this way, we still wouldn't have a shelter, right? Because the next step is bridge housing, and the step after bridge housing is supported, like assisted living, transitional housing, where you still have a caseworker and you have someone checking in and helping you learn how to live independently, making sure you have the supports you need, right? But if we just always say we need to wait for the next step before we do the next thing, then we are trapped. And I watched this government, our municipal government currently in this council, essentially a couple months ago in February, vote against municipal land that was already zoned to put in this kind of housing, this kind of bridge housing. And then, the resolution after that was to create a plan around solving the homelessness issue. This is the plan that I want to always make sure we're working through, okay? So first, when we have a problem, we need to be understanding the problem. We need to study it together. We need to make sure we wrap our heads around it. Then we need to plan it. So we need to make proper plans. Then we need to deliberate it, right? Debate among ourselves, make sure that all the voices are tabled and we're making the best decisions. Then we need to adopt it, change what needs to be changed, adopt it, and then pivot a little bit, but we say, this is the plan we're doing. Think Peterborough in 2023 when they saw this problem and had the vision to tackle it. And then we need to actually build the thing. Now, if you follow, this is what I want to follow as mayor, because what we saw was we do understand the plan of the issue of homelessness. Then we say, let's make a plan for it. And then we deliberate it, and right when we were ready to adopt a plan, this current administration went right back to let's go right back to making a plan. So this is the kind of thing where I think it's really helpful to visualize this and hold me to account when I'm your mayor with this kind of 5-point rubric, which is when we say, well, we're right there. We're doing public consult on the site. We've got bridge housing. We've got a plan. Neighborhood Works is ready to step up. We're almost there. And then for some inexplicable, and I mean unexplained reason, no, that site's not suitable. We don't have any other options. Well, then bang, we are actually reversed, right? And this is the kind of thing where, friends, we do need the will together, the courage, the leadership to say, we got to move all the way through. We could have approved the land and been building it now like Peterborough has, because here is what happened. Service calls were reduced 90%, 90%, police and ambulance and first responders when this kind of bridge housing went in. Well, that's something that we all talk about. The RCMP report, the policing, the lack of policing, police are tied up doing it. Imagine a solution that just cuts down on 90% of service calls, okay? That is humongous. So there's fewer emergency calls. There was better health and safety for residents. Businesses felt safer. There was obviously no more encampments everywhere. And this is the kind of incremental solutions that we need to start adopting in St. Stephen. Again, you are not seeing that with this current council and mayor, which just observing this has been frustrating for me, but also just because I'm not hearing any communication around, for example, why the site was unsuitable, that was zoned already, and what caused us to be pushed back and say, we need a plan to make a plan. That's such a government cliche, right? The government just, has a study done or has a plan to make a plan to make a plan. And that's really all that's happened here. This is a crisis. This is something that I will solve and tackle as your mayor, starting with finding the provincial funding, saying that to the municipality, hey, let's revisit the site, let's do everything we can, let's consult with the neighbors, let's make sure that we get to a point where, imagine 90% reduction in service calls, but then also we also need to get that next step, that transition housing in place, and allow that kind of chain of the housing continuum to start taking place. But if we just stand around and say, well, we don't have the next step, we can't do the thing, or all the pressure will continue to be on the shelter. But also this feels like if you got flooding in your basement and your roof is leaking and you say, you're just kind of standing there immobilized saying, well, we don't know what's the cause. Do we fix the roof? We should really create a study here to figure out if the leaking roof is causing the flooding in the basement. But we could get a sump, but we could get a roofer. So instead, let's just kind of stand here and do nothing. That's how it feels. Solve one of the problems, then the next thing will happen. And you might have mold, you might have to figure out the next step after that. But it is, if housing is a human right and it's an emergency, and it's incumbent on all levels of government to work together, and the province and the federal government right now are putting in more money than ever, please choose with me to build up St. Stephen. Let's take leadership on this issue. Let's take all the pressure off the shelter and the neighbors around. Public safety, I've said, and solving homelessness for people who are experiencing that are not at odds. They are not mutually exclusive. It's a problem we can solve together at the same time. I'm looking forward to doing that with you, which is one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor, as we work through this 5-stage plan together and actually get to the building stage. BuildUpStStephen.ca. Let's do it like Peterborough did. Take care of yourself today and your neighbor, and let's build up St. Stephen together. I'll see you soon.